Everyone, I'd like to bring this meeting of Horsham District Council's Governance Committee to order. This is a meeting in public, but not a public meeting. However, we do have some members of the public here to speak, and we're very grateful for them to be here and attending. Apologies for absence. I don't have any apologies from any councillors, so that's great. Welcome, everyone, and welcome to Councillor Lambert, who's joining the committee for this year. Item number one was apologies for absence, so we're going to move on to minutes of the previous meeting on pages 3 and 4. I move that the minutes of the meeting held on the 21st of July be approved as a correct record. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Jeffrey. Does anyone wish to comment on the accuracy of the minutes? No? Okay, if we're all agreed that I may sign the minutes as a correct record. Thank you. So, item number 3, declarations of interest from members. Do any members have an interest to declare in respect of any item on tonight's agenda? There aren't that many. Councillor Emery.
Just to declare the fact that I am the Horsham District Council ward representative for Holbrook West, part of which is contained within the unparished area. However, that does not influence me in this discussion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Emery, as reflected in the minutes of the previous governance meeting. That's noted, and I'm sure we can make a similar note for Councillor Boffey. If I mean, only for the same reason as per the previous meeting and its minutes. Lovely. Well, if we can do that, we shall happily do so. No other declarations? Lovely. We shall move on. Item number 4, announcements. Pleasingly, there are no announcements, so we can move on to the substantive part of the evening. Item number 5, the Horsham Town Community Governance Review final recommendations. And tonight we're joined by Aisha Nottage, our Democratic Services and Elections Manager, who will introduce the report.
Thank you. So firstly, members will note that the report makes reference to a parish/town council, although throughout this process we have been referring to a town council, but just to note, the council must be established as a parish in the first instance, and then if created, Horsham Parish Council may resolve to become a town council. As members of the committee will be aware, a second consultation took place in August and September in relation to the draft recommendations that were agreed by the Governance Committee in June. Over 700 responses were received to the online survey, alongside feedback from drop-in sessions and written submissions. The detailed analysis of responses is set out in Appendices 2 and 3 to the report, which the Governance Committee are asked to note. An informal session was also held with the district councillors for the unparished area, Governance Committee members and the chairs of the neighbourhood councils. The consultation sought views in relation to the name of the proposed parish council, the warding arrangements, the ward names and the number of councillors. As a result of the consultation, the key changes from the draft recommendations are Ashcourt Ward to be named Newtown, Chesworth Ward to be named Chesworth and Oak Hill, and Blackbridge and Highwood Ward to be named Highwood and Blackbridge. Very important distinction. An increase to the number of councillors from 15 to 18, with an increase of 1 councillor to the Den, Forest and Chesworth and Oak Hill wards. Other comments were received in relation to the number of councillors, which were carefully considered. It is felt that the final proposals offer the best balance between electoral equality and convenient governance. The final recommendations are included at Appendix 1 and detailed in the recommendations for approval. It is also proposed that a shadow parish council is set up, which would enable the preparation of draft governance documents, policies and procedures. These could be reviewed and adopted as appropriate by the parish council once elected. In order to facilitate this process, there's a budget requirement of £80,000. The first recommendation to full council requests that £80,000 is allocated to the set-up costs. Following the publication of the papers, through the budget review and setting process, it was identified that there was budget available within that set for the community governance reviews in 2025-26. So the reason there was budget left over is due to an underspend on the current review of the unparished area in Horsham, as well as no spending as yet in relation to the wider district review. Any further budget required for the wider district review will be set in the usual process by council for 2026-27. As such, the additional budget required in 2025-26 is now 45,000 rather than 80,000. The reorganisation order in Appendix 5 sets out the arrangements for the proposed parish council, and Governance Committee are asked to recommend that full council approves and makes the order. Finally, Governance Committee are recommended to amend the terms of reference, which would enable a decision to be made by full council on the 19th of November. This decision would allow the recruitment of a clerk to begin promptly and the efficient republication of the electoral register.
Thank you very much, Aisha. So, we have a representative of Forest Neighbourhood Council in attendance this evening to make a statement on this agenda item. So, Diane, you're now able to make your statement. So, if you'd like to, you have 2 minutes in which to make it.
Thank you very much. I'm the chair of the Forest Neighbourhood Council, which is one of the 3 neighbourhood councils for the unparished area of Horsham. Unfortunately, the other chairs cannot be here, but they have asked that I speak on their behalf, so I'm speaking for all 3 neighbourhood councils. When Horsham District Council started the process of looking at the possibility of establishing a parish or town council for the unparished area of Horsham, the political landscape was very different from now. Now that the government is proceeding with devolution and the introduction of unitary authorities, we are glad that the process for considering a parish council had started. Without this, Horsham Town would lack grassroots representation and be very vulnerable. The neighbourhood councils have been involved in discussions about the format of the proposed council and agree with the number of councillors and ward arrangements. We welcome the inclusion of a representative from each neighbourhood council on the shadow council. Over the last couple of months, the neighbourhood councils have also discussed with HDC what happens to the neighbourhood councils when the parish council is established, and in particular the precise date that the neighbourhood councils will be dissolved. One of the main areas of concern has been the planning consultation, which will be dealt with, how it will be dealt with if the neighbourhood councils dissolve on the 31st of March, as there will be a lack of representation between the vesting date of the parish council and the May election date. The neighbourhood councils therefore propose delaying their dissolution until the new parish councillors have been elected, so that the neighbourhood councils can continue primarily to deal with any planning matters. But to conclude, the 3 neighbourhood councils support the establishment of the parish council for the Horsham town.
Thank you so much, Dan. I really appreciate that, and I think it ought to be noted here that this process began as a result of a request from the community, from the Blueprint Group, and local government reorganisation coming after it, I think, has shown how timely and useful that request has been. Now, to move on. I understand that Councillor Jeffrey wishes to move the recommendations before us before we start the debate. Is that correct, Councillor Jeffrey?
That's
correct. Okay, and do you have a seconder for that?
I do, yes, sir.
Okay.
Is this the amendment or the
So
whole thing?
what I'm about to propose is the seconder, if you are comfortable to do that and with the consent of the meeting, in light of the change to the additional budget requirement in 2025-26, as just mentioned by Aisha, I understand that Councillor Jeffrey was intending to alter recommendation 1 on page 8 of the agenda pack to revise downwards the budget requirement. As such, the recommendation will read as follows: that a budget of £45,000 in 2025-26 be allocated to the setup costs, and that would be the amendment, and with the consent of the meeting, that would be the motion that we're discussing. So if I understand that correctly, Councillor Jeffrey?
That's correct, Chair, yes.
Okay, and do I have the consent of councillors present to proceed on that basis and to debate the proposal as amended? Okay, fantastic. In which case then, that agreed. we can proceed to the substantive debate. So, as the proposer of the recommendations, Councillor Jeffrey, do you wish to speak now or? Yep,
I would, Chair. I'll speak briefly now, if that's
thank
okay.
you, please.
I just wanted to start off by thanking the officers for their hard work and dedication throughout the process. This represents an impressive piece of work to balance the need and aspirations of the town's unparished area, and to build on the dedication that has been demonstrated by the 3 neighbourhood councils that have served the unparished area so well over many years. At this time of local government reorganisation, safeguarding fair representation, a key democratic principle, has never been more important. While we can't take credit for this process, which has been undertaken as our statutory duty to represent, to respond to a request from the community, we can, however, take pride in being proactive in ensuring full and fair powers of self-governance for one of the only 2 unparished areas of West Sussex remaining, well in advance of the largest shake-up to local government in the last 50 years. It is therefore vital that the town retains a strong local voice in light of local government reorganisation as we look towards the new unitary authority and the end of Horsham District Council. I believe that the recommendations in front of us deliver on that and will work to safeguard the voice of those in the unparished area for years to come as we look towards the future beyond HDC. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jeffrey. Councillor Boffey, as seconder, do you wish to speak now or later on in the debate?
I'll wait a little while if that's okay, Chair.
That's absolutely fine. Okay. So I'll now open up the floor to debate. So do any questions on this report? Councillor Clark, don't be shy.
I wasn't shy, Chairman. I was waiting for somebody else to raise.
Thank you, appreciate it.
issues.
Just to let you know, Councillor Clark, perhaps you might like to press a different button because you're currently appearing as Councillor Lambert.
She's far better looking than I am. Sorry. Yes. I mean, I like to say that I'm still not 100% happy about the levels of representation, bearing in mind guidance of Para 166 about equitable representation from the different wards. My back of the fag packet calculations did show a high number of councillors, but if I look at table 4041, it shows some troubling disparities. But on the other hand, one has to be practical, and as a practical person, I'm happy. The 18 members is, one has to live with and just suck it and see how it goes. I don't think that 18 people is too difficult for a chairman to run, but obviously some people don't agree. But I mean, I think it's a reasonable compromise anyway.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. I just wanted to pause to see if there was anything nothing that the officers need to respond to there. So, councillors. So if no other members of the committee wish to respond, we do have in attendance Councillor John Olson, who's the chair of the Unparished Area Committee, who I believe might like to address us and make some comments. Please, John.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. Yes, as chair of the Unparished Area Committee, but also as a councillor for the District Forest Ward, as well as a former neighbourhood councillor, I do want to thank the members of this committee and officers who have been working hard behind the scenes on these proposals and this recommendation, and also to thank the residents, including my own, who continue to engage in this process. I especially want to thank you for taking on board comments that I presented to this committee at the last meeting in July. And I note that the future town council wards of Forest, Newtown, and Chesworth and Oak Hill, all 3 located within my current Horsham District Council ward, or parts of, have been altered either in name or the number of councillors or both, and taking on the feedback from this committee, residents, and myself. I think as Councillor Clark was pointing to, the elector ratio disparities have improved, but they still remain quite different across the wards. But we realise that we are restrained by the current West Sussex boundaries and the likely unitary boundaries as well. But this is, of course, another small step in what's been a very long process. These proposals might not be perfect, but I imagine, like Horsham District, which has evolved over the past 5 decades of its existence, no doubt so shall the Horsham Town Council. No doubt also to ongoing interference in local government by national government at various points in the future. So again, thank you. I'm much more impressed by this improved proposal than the last one that I saw. And while I don't get to vote at this point, it does have my support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ronson. So, to return to the floor, if no other member has any comments and stuff, I hand it over to Councillor Boffey as seconder.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'd like to add my thanks to Democratic Services team, Aisha, Bradley and their colleagues, and also to Sam, Head of Finance Performance, who's here as well, and Dominic Bradley, the Director, who've obviously had to do some of the work on the proposals that come to us this evening. Also to the hundreds of our residents who engage with the consultation process. I think we were all very pleased to see the level of engagement with this. It was very, very pleasing to see. I think at this point, it would hopefully we'll get other opportunities to do this, but just in case we don't, it'd be remiss at this point not to thank the 3 neighbourhood councils for 50 years of diligent service to this unparished area, actually. All their previous and current members, their chairs, clerks, and yes, I mean, I had as many will know, I had the pleasure of serving on one and chairing one for a few years. And it was always an enjoyable experience, always slightly different, I would imagine, from being on a parish council. There was lots of limitations to what could be done, but actually on various occasions the 3 neighbourhood councils were able to come together and speak with one voice and punch above their weight, one might say. But times are changing, and we need to change with them. Finally, if I could just sort of pick up on the point, it is a difficult balance, this one, on the number of councillors and the representation. I very much share the concerns of Councillor Clark and Councillor Olsen on this point and the disparity between the areas. But I think we also have to bear in mind that when you put them together, 91% of the respondents said that 15 councillors was either about right or too many, and we're adding on 3 more. I completely understand and agree with why we're adding on 3 more under the circumstances, but you know, I'm sometimes known for being the person who carries around an electoral ward map of this area in his head, and I can tell you that the cat's cradle of all the considerations that one has to take into account when actually doing this is really quite something. If it can be of any reassurance to members, whilst we can't prejudge the future, the reality is likely to be that within the next few years, as a result of local government reorganisation, there will be a full boundary review, yes, of the upper tier authority, but best practice, and I think possibly even requirement, is that essentially overwrites what we have in place at parish level until such time as the parish can conduct its own, a community governance review is carried again, if that is chosen to be the case. And I think that the warding arrangements are sort of as simple as they can be, but they are still, as proposed, but they are still more complicated than anyone would actually like. And it is that complication that actually leads to the disparity in the electoral ratios. I would hazard a guess that at the time of that future review, when it takes place, there will be a smaller number of wards covering a larger area, and therefore we'll be able to come to a more harmonious level of representation. So I think, you know, balancing the different considerations have been done to the best of everyone's ability, in the knowledge that in the fullness of time things will only improve in that regard. So yes, thank you very much to all the officers who've done the work on this, the engagement from residents, community organisations and stakeholders, and yes, I very much support the proposals as amended. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Buffy. So, Councillor Jeffrey is the proposer of the recommendation. You do have the right to reply. Do you wish to add any further comment?
Not at this point, Chair. I think everything that's been said is what I would have come back with. I think there's nothing else to be said here at this point from me. Thank you.
Wonderful. In which case, I think now's the appropriate time that we move to a vote on the recommendations, which, as they are lengthy, I'll beg permission of the committee not to read in full, but would remind members of the committee that the recommendation 1 to council has been altered to revise downwards the additional budget requirement from 80,000 to 45,000. So, all those in favour of approving the recommendations, please show. Pleased to say that even I can count to that. And that is unanimous. Thank you so much. So, item number 6, urgent business. There is no urgent business. So I'm pleased to declare that the meeting is now closed at 5:50 p.m.